Swami Maharaj Iskan's BBT, Founder Acharya Jagat Guru Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is too short. Anatakoti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol. It's not a longer chord, this is...
Yeah, it's, the other one was broken, it got ordered, but in the meantime, for the next couple of days.
Can it just be here and catch the sound?
It's like the same as catching over here, it gets really echoey. I guess we'll see.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tojayam Udirayet Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1. Questions by Vidura. Text 18. Pureshu Punyopavandri Vanyanari Puyopanadri Kunjesu Apanka Toyeshu Sarit Sarashu Ananta Lingai Samalankriteshu Chachara Tirthayataneshu Ananya Pureshu Punyo Pavanadri Kunjesu Apankato Yeshu Saritsarashu Anantalingai Samalankriteshu Chachara Tirtha Yatanesh Ananya Pureshu Punyo Pavanadri Kunjeshu Apankato Yeshu Saritsarharshu Anantalingai Samalankriteshu Chachara Tirtha Yataneshananya Pureshu Punyo Pavanadri Kunjeshu Apankato Yeshu Saritsaharsu Anantalingai Samalankriteshu Chachara Tirtha Yataneshananya
Pureshu Punyo Pavanadri Kunjeshu Apankato Yeshu Saritsarasu Anantalingai Samalankriteshu Tirthayataneshwananta
Pureshu, holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Mathura. Punya, piety. Upavana, the air. Adri, hill. Kunjesu, in the orchards. Apanka, without sin. Toyeshu, in the water. Sarit, river. Sarashu, lakes. Anantalingai, the forms of the unlimited. Samalankriteshu, being so decorated. Chachara, executed. Tirtha, places of pilgrimage. Ayataneshu, holy lands. Ananya, alone, or seeing Krishna alone. Translation. He began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Mathura. He traveled where the air, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless, where the forms of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus, he performed the pilgrim's progress. Please repeat. He began to travel alone. Thinking only of Krishna. Through various holy places. Like Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Mathura. He traveled with the air, hill, orchard, river, and lake. Are all pure and sinless. And where the forms of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus he performed the pilgrim's progress. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. These archer forms of the Lord may be considered idols by the atheists, but that does not matter for persons like Vidura or his many other servants. The forms of the Lord are mentioned here as Anantalinga. Such forms of the Lord have unlimited potency, the same as that of the Lord himself. There is no difference between the potencies of the archa and those of the personal forms of the Lord. The example of the post box and post office may be applied here. The little post boxes distributed all over the city have the same potency as the postal system in general. The duty of the post office is to carry letters from one place to another. If one puts letters in post boxes authorized by the General Post Office, the function of carrying letters is performed without a doubt. Similarly, the Archamurti can also deliver the same unlimited potency of the Lord as when he is personally present. Vidura, therefore, could see nothing but Krishna in the different archa forms, and ultimately he was able to realize Krishna alone and nothing else. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishnam Stabinam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantigam Vandeham Shri Ro Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sagana Vaganadan Vinam Nam Sajimam Sadvedam Zavanudam Sahinam Pridana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakavinamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jaitam Srito Bangur Mama Madama Dergati Matsar Vaspa Padambojo Radha Vadanamo Mano Divya Brindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ratnagara Sringasanasdo Srimad Radha Shilagovinda Devo Prestalabi Savyamano Smarami Sriman Rasarasarambi Bangsi Bhattadastita Karshan Venus Vinargopir Gopinath Sri Estuna Tapta Kanchan Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpadrubhyascha Kripasandubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Punyeshu Punyavavananji Kunjeshu Apankato Yeshu Sarit Saharshu Anantalingai Samalankrteshu Chachara Tirthaya Taneshananya. He began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna, to various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Mathura. He traveled where the air, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless, where the forms of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus he performed the Pilgrim's Progress. This is a very strong contrast in the Leela of the Lord's devotees, Vidura. Just a few verses ago, we were hearing his relative Duryodhana chastise and threaten him in the strongest and most abusive and uncalled for, unjustified language. Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy. This is Hiranyakashipu's accusation of Prahlad Maharaj, and he's taken the side of my arch enemy, the killer of my brother Hiranyaksha. Therefore, this Prahlad cannot be trusted. And worse, he should be killed by all means. This is the attitude of the non-devotee. And what is the qualification? What is the overall symptom of the non-devotee? To the contrary of what's described here, sinless, sinful. What is it? 728. Those who are only those who are sinless can understand, can rise up to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are filled with sinful activities, sinful reactions, sinful desires. Quite to the contrary, they can't take the devotional service with determination. Quite to the contrary, they become the determined enemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's like a snowball avalanche. The more you engage in sinful activities, the more you develop a demoniac mentality, atheistic mentality, to the point where you become the avowed enemy and so-called competitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Hiranyaksha was later in this canto, look how strong and big my body is, and trying to find a contestant against me. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, and he says, both men and women, if they think that they have a beautiful body, that when they walk down the street, it will block the sun in all directions and everybody will have to notice them, then they think themselves very, very successful. And a society that's made up of such people considers itself to be the most advanced civilization in the world. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him only with his breath. In other words, he's threatening severe violence. thus being pierced by the arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart. It's described that of all the words that can pierce to the core of the heart from a relative, one who was, especially so in the age of Kali, husband and wife. I accept such and such as my lawfully wedded such and such, in happiness and distress, in sickness and in health, etc., until death do us part. But a lot of times, the so-called loving relationship barely lasts more than, who's the statistician, a year, 2, 3 months? Afflicted to the core of his heart. This is what Lord Shiva admonished Sati. Do not go to your father-in-law Daksha's house. Because of your relationship with me, Lord Shiva, he will greatly insult you. And when you perceive that, that insult will be worse than death. Which indeed it was.
8 years, Rama Prabhu.
8 years? Okay. Well, we'll ask you in 8 years what the statistic, we'd be willing to bet that it's probably less amount of time after Kali Yuga progresses. So, he was not sorry. He quit his brother's house, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. So Krishna says very nicely in the Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, maybe somebody could find the verse where Krishna is saying one who is equal in honor and dishonor, and praise and blame. The nature of the material world is that, and you see, you just follow the devotional principles, stay steady throughout your life, and Krishna will illustrate to you. Sometimes you're praised for your activities, and then sometimes you will be blamed for doing the exact same thing. One who is equal to friends and enemies, equiposed in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness, stress, fame and infamy. Somehow it sticks in my mind, praise and blame. Maybe that's in another place. This is likened unto what Vidura is doing here. Free from contaminating association. Devotees, because of their relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, have a great devotional mystic art that they are alone and together one and the same time. Just like coming to greet the deities or coming to Mangalarti. Each of us is alone, but we're all together as community. And the community is only as strong as the individuals are thus strong. Just like a flock of birds are flying, they're flying in formation, but each one is keeping themselves up at such elevation and the progressive velocity going forward by their own strength. Yet, the example is given at the time of death, how we train on the ground and doesn't recognize my face, You have to hit a button that makes it, or you could even open it up to the book. You can go to a very archaic, primitive method that is practically going out of style, but old-timers like me still use books, Well, there is not a Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, no.
Nope. It was distributed. Anyway, we can do this. Open it up again. Quickly. So, that's what's being mentioned here is, it's going to stay on, I have to keep hitting it. So Maya, the supreme energy of the Lord, in the case of Duryodhana insulting Vidura, acted both internally and externally. The devotee is free from, someone is praised and someone is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But the devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy, distress or happiness. He is very patient. He does not speak of anything but the topics about Krishna. Therefore, he is called silent. 26 qualities of the devotees. Silent means silent in nonsense, not that I take a vow of silence. But actually, the devotee should speak very loudly because he's the only one who has anything worthwhile to say. And the speaking of a pure devotee, the chanting of a pure devotee, transforms the universe. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he tried his level best and did an amazing, we can't even begin to understand what he did to reinstate in its rightful place of dignity Lord Chaitanya's movement in the minds and intelligence and vision not only of his countrymen but even of the European British who were ruling at the time. But still, he felt some dissatisfaction that some of the people that he had associated himself with or had tried to upgrade or help or make alliance with had in certain ways disappointed him. And he was unhappy coming toward the end of his life. And the Lord appeared to him and said, my dear, I believe the word used was Sajjani, pure devotee, pure-hearted one. Do not lament. You simply go to the Chatak Parvat sand dune. That's what you have to go through the whole building and that's what you get. Bhagavad Gita's are in there, in the book room. Anyway, we don't need it now because you go to the Jagannath Puri, Chatak Parvat, the replica of Govardhan Hill, where I personally, with my own hand, buried the body of my beloved Haridas. And you simply erect the Bhajan Kutir and you chant there continuously for the rest of your life. And by this chanting, you will deliver the entire universe. So that is the level of speaking on behalf of the Lord, how high it can come to that point. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada's chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra beginning in Tompkinson Square Park, well, certainly before that, but Prabhupada's chanting completely transformed what we can at least have a little perception of this planet, but it's actually transforming the entire universe. Narada Muni Bhajaivina Namika Ramana Ramne, that this chanting is so ecstatic that the entire universe becomes ecstatic in love of Godhead. So faith in the holy name and the application of the process of Nam Sankirtan is so exalted. That's why it's described as the most important activity. It is the singular activity brought to this world by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Radha and Krishna combined. There is nothing more higher, there's nothing more beautiful than Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As his mission, his personality, his methodology. The devotee is happy in all conditions. So anyway, one who very, very dear to Krishna. So, in this contrast, he left this snakebed of politics. It's described that he needed to go out on pilgrimage because he had become contaminated in that bad association. In order to gain a higher order of pious life, He traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendent forms of the Lord are situated. He began to travel alone. And it's mentioned that when going out on pilgrimage and in general performing devotional service to the Lord, one should not be thinking how to please society. One should simply be thinking how to please the Lord. And of course, because the Lord is the source of all societies, if the Lord is pleased, then everyone will be pleased ultimately and in the best and most supreme paramount way. When Prabhupada directed the devotees during his 1-month stay in Boston in May of 1968 to go revisit the Commonwealth Pier at Boston Harbor, Prabhupada hadn't been there in nearly 3 years. He had just disembarked from the boat with Captain Pandya just for a little bit. But Prabhupada knew the directions how to get there. And anyone who's been to Boston knows that it's not an easy place to get around. It's a very not well-planned road city. And so Prabhupada, looking at the place, he was very solemn. And Prabhupada spoke that they have unalloyed steel. He saw unalloyed steel written on the side of a warehouse, but we have unalloyed devotion. And then he went on to say that if a pack of asses says that you're good, what is that? Bring donkeys. Like anything, a TV show, someone's a celebrity, beauty queen or a muscle-bound or whatever it is, politician, and everybody was applauding, at least for that time, till the next one, by, their karmic competition, becomes the next one in line and topples the old one. What is that? We want a certificate from Krishna that this man has done something for me. By pouring water on the root of a tree, all the limbs, branches, twigs are nourished automatically. So, what Prabhupada is concentrating on here is the potency of deity. And Prabhupada begins by giving a knockout punch to the atheists and the so-called idolaters. The archer forms of the Lord may be considered idols by the atheists, but that does not matter for persons like Vidura or his many other servants. The process of performing devotional service is direct reciprocation between the performer and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the results are very tangibly felt on the bodily, mental, intellectual, and spiritual platform. That's why it doesn't matter what idolaters or atheists say. The forms of the Lord are mentioned as Anantalinga. They have unlimited potency, the same as the Lord himself. There's the beautiful story of Shakshi Gopal, who bore witness for the young Brahmin. And we all know the story, of course. The reason is not so important, but just to demonstrate the power of the deity. And even Krishna was joking with the young Brahmin. I've never heard of a deity walking before. Well, my Lord, if you can talk, then you can walk. Well, you got me there. All right, cook a kilo of rice every day, and do not look back, but you will hear the tinkling of my ankle bracelets. It was like a 1,000-kilometer journey, and the atheistic brother of the so-called of the daughter of the older Brahmin who had promised him to the young Brahmin for taking care of him so nicely on pilgrimage. When the arrangement or the agreement for this was made, he readily agreed. Yes, if the deity comes to bear witness, I will agree. Yes, because he's thinking, deity is going to come all this way, walking? Ha ha ha. He's such a foolish, sentimental, religious fanatic. But then Krishna came. You don't hear that the the son of the older Brahmin, protested, he immediately had to accept. So the example is given, and Prabhupada would use this example, and he trained his disciples. There's one video of a young Achyutananda Swami saying this example, comes to my mind. The little post boxes distributed all over the city have the same potency as the postal system in general. The duty of the post office is to carry letters from one place to another. If one puts letters in post boxes authorized by the General Post Office, the function of carrying letters is performed without a doubt. Similarly, the Archamurti can also deliver the same unlimited potency of the Lord as when he is personally present. So there's a very nice section where Narada Muni is teaching to Maharaj Yudhishthira. It's in the chapter 14, Ideal Family Life of the 7th Canto. This is beginning on verse 27. Now I shall describe the places where religious performances may be well executed. Any place where a Vaishnava is available is an excellent place for all auspicious activities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the support of this entire cosmic manifestation with all its moving and non-moving living entities. And the temple where the deity of the Lord is installed is a most sacred place. Furthermore, places where learned Brahmins observe Vedic principles by means of austerity, education, and mercy are the most auspicious and sacred. So what to speak when all three of those things are together? The Mahabhagavad Vaishnava, the deity, and the Brahmins. And naturally, in such a place, the Shastras, of which the Srimad Bhagavatam is the most beloved, are revered and worshipped and properly heard and chanted. At the present day, especially in big cities, people live in small apartments and are not able to establish a deity or temple. You see, you go to India and there are many temples in people's homes. So Prabhupada was saying as early as 1966 when he came, that Vrindavan, which at that time was underdeveloped as compared to today, Prabhupada said it has 5,000 temples. Those temples are in people's homes. But here, even Prabhupada wanted to, at one point, distribute Gaura deities, calling them Hare Krishna dolls. And you give them the people, these are Hare Krishna dolls, and you keep them in your home, and you offer an incense and make a prayer, and you will get good luck. This is Prabhupada's munificent idea to spread the deity worship. In Gaura they don't take offense. Not possible to establish a deity or a temple in their small apartment. Under the circumstances, therefore, the centers and temples being established by the expanding Krishna consciousness movement. The 7th Canto was coming in 1975, I believe, maybe 76. Although people in general are no longer interested in religious ceremonies or deity worship, the Krishna conscious movement gives everyone the chance to advance in spiritual life by becoming Krishna conscious. You hear from devotees like Govindadasi, early devotees. And what was one of the main things that Prabhupada wanted in those early days? Every one of you should go and open a center. Prabhupada had a globe on his desk, 26 Second Avenue, maybe other centers also, and he liked to spin it. And it seemed like a joke to us. We were just a bunch of teenagers, a bunch of hippies, a handful of us. Such and such, you will go to China. Such and such, you will go to Russia. But Prabhupada was deadly serious, even though it seemed to be like just a wishful humor thinking at the time. When the opulent worship of the Gopal deity rescued and rediscovered by Madhavendra Puri at Govardhan Hill, it all came together very quickly, and Prabhupada writes in the purport, in parallel to Kaviraj Goswami's astonishing description of the manifestation of the worship and grandeur of the Gopal deity. Similarly, this Krishna consciousness movement has spread all very rapidly within the last 4 or 5 years. Prabhupada's writing this in 1971. We've told this story before, but it's a nice story to say in this regard. Prabhupada came back to Calcutta in late 1970, 1971 in triumph. Hometown hero became hugely famous. Not really. And Prabhupada left from the dock in Calcutta to sail all around Cape Coleman, to go to Bombay, and ultimately to come to America. But Calcutta was the port, the disembarking point. It's just his son was there. No big, wasn't such a big thing. Who was it? Took him around to the different newspapers. Nobody would pick up the story except one local Bengali, put a little Bengali Gazette, put a little column in there. Swami Bhaktivedanta going to America. Now he comes back in huge triumph. So one old friend, Niranjana Swami tells this story. I heard him say this on an Odessa festival. That's my source of this story. That an old friend of his from his youth, he's, very friendly and familiar, and telling Prabhupada there's a yogi. He's making a sensation in Calcutta City. He can reach behind anybody's ear, pull out an apple, just make it appear out of nowhere. And Prabhupada's going along, it's his old friend, That's very nice, very wonderful. Just like I went to America, I had no money. I simply had a bag of cereal, a trunk of books, and a pair of hand cartels. I went to New York and I sat down under a tree in Tompkinson Square Park and I started chanting Hare Krishna. And some very nice American boys and girls gathered around me, and they liked the chanting of Hare Krishna, and they wanted to hear about Krishna, so we all started a center. And it was very successful. And then some of those boys and girls said that I should go to San Francisco and we should start a center over there because there's a much bigger youth scene going on over there. And I did the same thing there. We chanted in, what was that place called? Hippie Hill, Golden Gate Park. And then it became very popular. And centers started popping up, in Los Angeles, in Santa Fe, in Buffalo, and now Hamburg, Germany, London. And in just 4 years, we have 65 centers, and in all of those centers, we have so many apples. So the potency of doing for Krishna, and anything you want will be there, will manifest immediately and automatically. So the center is the embassy. Also the example is the embassy. This is the embassy of Goloka Vrindavan. Say you're in a foreign country, you should go to the U.S. Embassy and you'll be protected. They have the U.S. Marine Corps and they have the Army, and you come into the embassy, you'll be protected. When Ayendra Prabhu was at the final stage of getting his citizenship, he had to go to the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi and sign a declaration of renunciation. Can you imagine that? A declaration of renunciation. And the official was just amazed that a U.S. citizen would give up his U.S. citizenship to become an Indian citizen. Do you know what you're doing? Are you in your right mind? Are you sure? Once you sign this paper, there'll be nobody to protect you. And I said, that's all right. Krishna's there. He'll protect me. So, of course, that's a fallacy that the embassy of a certain country is going to protect you. Or that you're in a foreign country and you go in the embassy and it's like a little patch of that country in that place. Mundane example, but it gives us some idea. So we come in the temple after being rough and tumbled out in the city all day, then immediately, because this is the domain of Sri Sri Radha Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Auspicious indeed are the places where there is a temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in which he is duly worshipped. And also the places where there flow the celebrated sacred rivers mentioned in the Puranas, the supplementary Vedic literatures. Anything spiritual done there is certainly very effective. Krishna consciousness movement invites everyone from all over the world without discrimination as to caste or creed to come to its centers and cultivate spiritual life perfectly. And during Prabhupada's time, and maybe still now, but very, very strongly there, even Prabhupada would say, come live with us. What is the difficulty? The Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita, the one volume, says he built a house in which the whole world can live. Or envious karmis, you people, do you work? You know, they're envious. We have bright clothes, bright faces, good food. We say, well, you just come live with us and you can be with us too. No problem. No. Now, this is very, very interesting. In verses 30 through 33, in this Sanskrit translation, Archa Ashrita, and Prabhupada translate this as places where the deity of Radha and Krishna is worshipped, such as big American cities like New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, and European cities like London and Paris, or wherever there are centers of Krishna consciousness. How's that for a gigantic translation to Archa Ashrita? And this is in the midst of so many sacred places in India being listed: Pushkar, Kurukshetra, Gaya, Prayag, I won't say them all, Setu Banda, Prabhas, Dwarka, Varanasi, Mathura, Bindu Sarovar, Badrikashram, the place where Lord Ramachandra and Mother Sita took shelter, Chitraput. On and on, so many, so many. And then Prabhupada translates Narada Muni's words. Similarly, places outside India where there are centers of the Krishna consciousness movement and where Radha Krishna deities are worshipped must all be visited. So we have to go to India? You can do pilgrimage right here. Must all be visited and worshipped by those who want to be spiritually advanced. One who intends to advance in spiritual life may visit all these places and perform ritualistic ceremonies to get results 1,000 times better than the results of the same activities performed in any other place. The Krishna consciousness movement is giving the population of the entire world a chance to take advantage of Krishna consciousness through the ISKCON centers where one may perform deity worship, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and this way obtain results with effectiveness increased 1,000 times. This constitutes the best welfare activity for human society. To make the temple, to maintain the temple. This was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, as predicted by him. Prithaviti ati ati nagarati gram sarvatra prachar habe moranam. And Prabhupada even said that in New York City there could be a temple on every street corner. Why a bodega on every street corner? We can keep the West End Superette at West End Avenue and 72nd Street because Prabhupada shopped there, but anyway. Everyone should be very eagerly interested in taking part in the Krishna consciousness movement and understand the value of spiritual life. So, and what to speak of Shri Shri Radha Govinda, the mission of Krishna, Radharani and Krishna in this New York City. They are the supreme Ishvar and Ishvari. Shri Shri Radha, New York, Ishvar Govinda, Radha Govinda, the most big, bad, powerful city. Well, Krishna and his consort certainly keep pace with that and eclipse and trump and overpower it. So the worship of Shri Shri Radha Govinda here is a very powerful and heroic activity. And of course, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants the Sankirtan movement to be expanded, one has to be a very fit and strong preacher or conduit representative of the deity. And to be strong, the deity will reciprocate with your effort to act on their behalf by empowering you with special potency to be protected properly in all circumstances, and that the words that come from your mouth and your preaching will not be defeated, you will not be humiliated, you will be given special intelligence, what to say, what to do, how to act, according to all time, places, or circumstances, or whatever curveballs, spitballs, foul balls, hard balls, knuckle balls can be thrown at you from this city. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. The verse once again. He began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna, through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Mathura. He traveled where the air, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless, where the forms of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus he performed the pilgrim's progress. Hare Krishna. Any question or comment?
I have a question about that. I want to understand the balance of the holy places, especially those places where Krishna Murti is there. They say that in places of pilgrimage, that they get contaminated.
Oh.
So I don't understand how is that possible that a place where...
Yes and no. Krishna can never be contaminated. The holy place can never be contaminated, but to give the devotees devotional service, the pure Vaishnava comes there and seemingly removes the burden of sinful reactions left there by not such advanced persons who simply want to cleanse themselves of sinful reactions. Just like if you're dirty, let me take a bath, but I'm going to go out and get dirty again, like an elephant throws dust on himself. So, the Lord is independent. He doesn't need our offering. He doesn't need us to feed him. He doesn't need us to dress him. He doesn't need us to preach on his behalf. But it's his mercy that he seemingly is dependent and relying on us to do these things. Like the Vatsalya Bhav of Nanda Yashoda, Mother Yashoda especially, Lord Krishna's babyhood drowned the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy. So what a baby, constantly taken care at every moment, 24 hours a day, always concerned. And what to speak of, and Krishna had a pretty tough babyhood. Putana at the age of 3 months, this so-calledly beautiful woman looking like the goddess of fortune, but is actually this most heinous and most violent-tended witch. Can you imagine you have a 3-month-old child and this witch comes and wants to... How frightening. So this is the Lord's special mercy and his greatest opulence is that he relies on his devotees. That would be my answer to that. It's kind of like a contradictory question, like a stump the guru question, stump the speaker question, but that's my best shot right off the top of my head. You can research it more. Maharaj, would you like to answer that or say something to that?
Well, the contamination, because like I heard Prabhupada lecture the other day, and he was saying now there's so many Mayavadis in Vrindavan, and they're preaching everywhere on big signboards.
Yeah.
So people get, covered over. They come, they get the, they get
Mm.
in that way there's contamination. The place is not contaminated.
Right.
You get like,
Yeah, that's a different way. Yeah. So like people come take a bath or they do whatever and they their simple reactions. But then the Mayavadis, they come and they set up shop there and it makes a seeming covering over the Dham that only a pure devotee can pierce through and safeguard and protect the less strong people in general who will fall prey to the rantings and preachings, so-called preachings of these Mayavadis.
in Jagannath Puri, they have non-veg restaurants everywhere.
Mm. Fish is the fruit of the sea, right? All right. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Bhaktivedanta Sri